We have 75 people now. I think we will begin because it's already 10:07. So good morning again. Let me start with what we stopped in the last class. In the last class, we had discussed about the .NET framework theory. Okay, so this class, I thought we will not take up theory. We'll just see whatever I have told in the last class. So I am, for this particular session, I'm going to use Visual Studio 2017 for those who are going to use 2017. Okay, but I will be using 2019 also. But just to show the difference between these two IDEs, the first one I'm going to use is 2017. Okay, after I show demo, today's demo only will be in 2017, but after this, everything I'll be using 2019. Let's begin. I'll share my screen now. Okay, I think you can see my screen in which I've opened Visual Studio 2017. Okay. Now, 2019 would be having a totally different look and feel. So let me not get into that. I'll start with that in the next class onwards. Okay, so please note what I'm going to do right now is not to explain any specific language. Okay, I'm just going to show you what is Visual Studio, how it looks like, how it works, and what is the benefit of this Visual Studio IDE, and let's do a little bit program to explain how the working of .NET is shown here. Okay, so let me begin with the first thing. This is Visual Studio. Let me just go and create a new project. So let me go to File, New Project. Okay, please note there are other things also. I'm just going to choose Project, and let me just show you a few things in this site first. I want you to focus on this part of the project. I hope you can see here. Right now, there is a thing, these are all called, please note the words what I'm using here is called templates. These are templates. Okay, these are the ones which are by default available when you install Visual Studio. By the way, this is not how it will be showing in 2019 Visual Studio. I'll show that in the next class, but this is just for you. This is for all other Visual Studios from 2010. I think I've been using 2010, I think 12, 14, 15 as well as 17 all have somewhat same look and feel. So that's why I'm showing this 2017, because 2019 Enterprise Edition might not be purchased by all the companies. So let's see both of that. Idea is still the same, only the way the look and feel is a little bit different. That's all. Okay, so here you see that there are some languages available here already. I'm not talking about any technology, guys. Only languages here. On this side, if you can see, TypeScript, Python, JavaScript, SQL, Visual Basic, Visual C#, like that, languages are there. But then these are the ones which are inbuilt, installed along with your Visual Studio package. But what about if I don't want these languages and I want my own languages? You can go online looking for templates. If you have internet, you can just look for other templates, any other languages you want, Visual C++ or whatever it is. Templates are available for a lot of languages in the online forum. Let me not take the online part. Let's see what is inside. That's enough for us. We have everything what we require here, because the language which we are going to see in this subject is Visual C#. Okay, so now what I'm going to tell you is that I am going to open two of these languages. Remaining languages I'm going to ignore for right now, just to understand, to get the core idea of .NET. I'm going to use two languages here, C# and Visual Basic. Okay, so you can see that Visual C# and Visual Basic, two languages are there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Visual Basic template and see what are the things you can develop with Visual Basic as the language. Okay, this is what I told you in .NET Framework. What is the capacity of .NET Framework? What and all can it develop? Okay, you can just see, have a glance of just an idea of what and all it can develop. Number one, Windows Classic Desktop. Okay, those who are using Windows 10, you need to know that Windows 10 is not Classic. It's a Metro style app. It's a universal app. Okay, which means when I say universal, I mean it can be used on a desktop, also on a touch based screen. Okay, that's the idea. Now, Windows Classic Desktop is available, and then you have web applications using VB, .NET Core using VB, .NET Standard using VB, Cloud using VB, test projects, WC Common, Windows Common Foundation. Okay, all these things, Communication Foundation, all those things are available here in under Visual Basic. Okay, and I can show you a lot of project templates are available for that particular part. But then now let me close Visual Basic and open Visual C#. Now, please note, what we are expecting is that we should have an entirely different set of project structure. But if you see, it's exactly the same. I hope you can see that. Same thing what I just read out in front of your Visual Basic is same thing is available in Visual C#, Windows Classic, Web, .NET Core, Standard, Cloud, Test, WCF, etc., etc. Now, apart from that, you have other project types also, okay, which we will not discuss in this class. But then just see that there are two major languages, and why only .NET has brought these two on the top is because these two are languages which are owned by Microsoft. Okay, that's why these are on the top. Remaining are not owned by Microsoft; they are endorsed by Microsoft. Okay, but that's why these two are given, and obviously we are going to use the first one, which is their proprietary language, Visual C#. But now, just for demonstration, I'm not going to use Visual C# because anymore all projects will be using C# only. So for this particular project, I'm just going to choose Windows Classic Desktop just to explain how a normal program in .NET would work. I've just chosen Classic because that's in our syllabus. We do not have advanced. The syllabus just tells you to learn C# and develop simple web applications using C#. Okay, so but here I'm just going to choose VB. Please note every project has the language on top of it. The idea and the language on the top of it. So now I'm just going to choose Windows Classic Desktop. Before beginning with like Windows form or web form, let's start with a simple thing called console app. Okay. Now I wanted to notice the word console app here. If I just choose Visual Basic instead of this particular Windows Classic, you see that a lot of things are available. All things which are possible from this language is listed out here in this pane. So if you see here, starting with console app, there are two ways in which you can develop a console app, .NET Core and .NET Framework. We have syllabus as .NET Framework, so I'm going to choose this. Core is the recent one, which is platform independent. This is platform dependent. Okay, remember that's the biggest difference. I'm stressing on it again and again because you should not think that syllabus had .NET Framework and nobody told us about the recent one. Okay, that's why I'm telling this again. So let me just choose console app. Okay, so why I'm choosing console now is because I just want you to see the working of .NET Framework. Okay, how this console app, this is the least of the programming. I hope you understand that. Okay, the first program you would have started as C programming or C++. You'd see that you'd be using a console application, which means black and white screen, you run it, you enter, you don't use mouse at all. That was the first thing you would have developed. Then I think most of you would have developed, we developed Swing in the third semester when you have come. Swing, you see that is also Java application, but then it does not use console. You can use mouse. You can click on certain things and you can make it work. That is a desktop application. Then in the same subject, you learned web application using Java. So what we are trying is we are trying to use the same language, but we are trying to develop a different type of applications. Now, the least of all those things will be a console app. So I'm going to start, excuse me, start with the console app. Okay. Let's begin. So let me just click. Please note I'm chosen VB. Be very careful of which language you choose. Okay, so I'll just give a name. Please note where it is located. That will be dependent on your system. Please do save a different folder or something for you. I'm just going to use the default one, which is already available. I'm just going to say hello VB. Okay, let me just leave it. This is my project's name, guys. So there'll be a folder created called hello VB. And I think you can see this part. Okay, so here you can see that I've just given the name as hello VB. And that will be my solution name, or otherwise project name. Okay, also I'll be creating one folder for this particular solution and everything will be added to that particular folder. So let me just click on OK. It will create a new project with one VB file created for me. Okay, I'm not going to talk about languages, guys. I just want to print and just see how it works. That's all. Okay, I'm not going to discuss the language itself. This is a VB project. Okay, so you have one VB code here. I hope it's visible. Now, whatever you write here would be the code of it, and then you can click on start and you can just run the project. That's normally how you would have done so far. So here also we are doing the same thing. We are creating a code, okay, and then we are writing code in that, and then we are executing it and we are getting the output. Very simple. Now in this program, I'm just going to put hello world. Okay, this is not to teach you programming. I'm repeating again. This is just to teach you how .NET applications work. If you remember the slide, what I had done in the last class, there was steps involved. The first step, second step, third step, like that, how a .NET application gets executed and you see the output. Now, what I'm going to write is, some of you might know, some of you might not know. It doesn't matter. We don't need to remember this. This is just VB. Okay, it's not in our syllabus. I'm just going to print, let's use the word system dot console dot write line. Okay, this is like system dot out dot println. Just like that, here we have system dot console dot write line. All I'm going to write here is hello world from VB. That's all I'm going to write. Since it's VB, I need not put semicolon. Okay, so that's all. I've just written one hello world. Remaining everything is already structured here. There is a main method. You can't call it method here. It's VB. So anyway, I'll just have main sub here, and inside that I've printed hello world. That's all. No semicolon needed because it is VB. Now I'm just going to click on start. But before I click on start, I wanted to notice right next to that start, there are two words. Number one, for what purpose are you running this particular project? And the second one is, in what CPU are you trying to plan or planning to run this particular project? Now, if you see that, I'm not going to bother about the CPU part because it's set any CPU. So I don't have any problem here. The second one is that debug. What is the other option apart from debug is release. Okay, there are two modes every project, guys, not just console, desktop application, web application, whatever application you are developing from .NET framework, there are two choices given to you. Are you debugging or are you going to release this project? So if you're debugging, what happens is if there is a problem in your code, your IDE will stop working, come back to this particular page and tell you what is the problem. That is debug mode. You are allowed to debug from the project, and the Visual Studio IDE will help you for that particular purpose. But what if I chose release? When I say release, which means I'm targeting to release my app from my system to other systems. In that case, what happens? I cannot show Visual Studio exceptions. Okay, I can only show regular exceptions like not found or something like that. So that time I'll change it to release. But since we are still studying, we'll never change this. We'll always keep it as debug. There is a reason why I told about this. Shortly, you'll see that. But let me just click on start. Okay, if I click on start, what am I supposed to see? I'm supposed to see a window, which command prompt window, which will just print hello world from VB. Now, you are not going to get what you are expecting, but let me just run this and see. I just want you to notice that if there is a black window coming and going, I'm clicking on start. It is, by the way, the word they are using is build. We will use the word compiling. It is right now compiling. Compilation is started. And once the compiling is done, it's going to run. Build has succeeded. I get the command prompt screen here, and the screen will print hello world from VB, and then it went off. That's what I saw now, because what I was expecting is I wanted to see the output properly, but I could not see that. Okay, so this always I do this because I just wanted to make one thing very clear for all of us to understand, is that a system, a program will do exactly what you have told, nothing extra, nothing less. I'll repeat again, whatever code you have written will do exactly what you have written, what you have asked the system to do. It will not do anything extra. It will not do anything less. Now, what you have told in this is only one line of code you have given. You said, write line, hello world from VB. You never told me to wait for the user to give an input, then I can stop the program. But here you said after writing the line, you can stop the program. That's what we have given instruction here. So let's fix that instruction by just writing system.console.read line or read key, something like that. I just need to give that. I need not put a semicolon because it's VB. All right, I'm now going to run it once again. Now you see it's faster and it has printed the output what I expected. Since I clicked on the key, it went off. But anyway, let me run it again. You can see hello world from VB is printed, and right now it's waiting for user input, a key from my side. Once I click on or enter something in the keyboard, this dialog would go away. So let me just do that. I'll just click on something, the dialog went away. Now, this is how a program works. Okay, not bothered about the coding what I've written, but one thing is very clear is, you know that you have written some code which is not zeros and ones. It is actually VB. Now, I want to see whether how the system understood that particular program. So if you could remember the steps involved in running a .NET application, that will be great. The first step, if you remember, the source code is compiled into or assembled into. Okay, or every source code is compiled into its intermediate language. Now, I just want to highlight the second one also, just in case. I'll be doing it shortly, but I wanted to remember this part. If there are more than one file, you're supposed to assemble them all into one file or one output file for sure. So now, let me go and find how this code got executed. Okay, so let's start. So imagine if I've run the program. Let me go to something. Please note, this is Visual Studio IDE. In this one, you don't have a Project Explorer. Here, they call it as Solution Explorer, which you would normally find on the right-hand side. You see there's something called Solution Explorer here. So let me just click on it, and you'll get the Solution Explorer. This is a very, very important location for your project, guys, because this is like how we had in Android, we had that Project Explorer, right? Same way here. So here your project is structured. There are a lot of things in your project, but if you remember, same thing Android Studio also did. It did not show you everything. It showed it in a different structure. But if you open the same folder in your operating system, it'll look a little bit different. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to right click on the project and I'm going to say open this folder in File Explorer. So let me just click on it. I'll open that particular project's location. If you see, it's there in the same place. See, Thomas source repos hello VB. Inside that one folder called hello VB, and then all my files are here. The file which I wrote is here, module1.vb. Okay, this is the C# code. Let me just open it with Notepad. Just see, this is the C# code what we had written just now. Okay, so let me just close this. Now, let me see what are the other things available here. There are a lot of other things which I need not bother about. This is all not shown to me in the Solution Explorer. Now, I hope you know the first folder is the most significant one. I'm going to ignore the remaining part. The first folder is bin, short form for binaries. Okay, so let me just open that bin folder. You see, this is why I highlighted on a particular release mode and debug mode. I told you now, since it is inside debug mode, there is a folder created called debug. I'll open that. And you see there are a lot of files there, but one file I would like you to focus on there. It is nothing but hellovb.exe. Please note, my file name is module1. Let me open the file here again. My file name is module1.vb. In Java, normally if I created a file called module1.java, what will be my output if I compiled it? Module1.class, right? Okay, but when it comes to here, it is not module1, but rather it is taking the project name and creating an exe. If you see, the exe is hellovb.exe. Now, if you remember the steps involved, you write source code, they are compiled or assembled into an assembly code, which can be either .exe or .dll. If you remember the steps, okay, that's very important. That's what I'm trying to show you, whatever I've discussed in the previous class with the theory. Okay, so if I have module1.vb, I compile it. And then what if I had module2.vb? What would I do? Again, I'll compile module2 also, but I will assemble them into one exe. That is what you're seeing there. Now, since it's an exe and I'm running Windows operating system, what if I double clicked on it? Will it work? That's the question we have. Yes, it will work. I'll just double click on it and you've got hello world from VB. Okay, now the next question, can I copy this and pass it to my friend who has same Windows 10, Windows operating system, which I have with the same framework, .NET framework, which I have. Will this work? Yes, absolutely. It will work. I just need to copy this exe file, give it to anybody who wants to run my project. That's all. Okay. Now, after I ran this particular exe, is there any way for you to find out what language I have utilized to do this particular project? There is no way you can find out. Let me just right click and go to its properties. Okay, I just want to show you some details of this particular project, what we have created. Hello VB is my application's name. File version is automatically given 1.0. Because the first time I'm running it. Copyright is automatically taken to 2020. Size, all those things. Language, neutral. Okay, we do not know which language it is written in because it is compiled. Once it is compiled, it becomes an intermediate language. That's what I'm trying to tell you in the first slide onwards. That we do not care which language you use. You might have used VB, you might have used C#. Output is going to look the same. It doesn't have any difference at all. So now, This is only one file. How will I understand with many files? So for that purpose, let me just close this project. Let me create a new project. Okay, let me create a new project. Okay, but this time I'm going to use C#. All right, I'm not going to explain the syntax and all. I just wanted to understand one thing. If there are two files involved, what would I do? Okay, so let me just create hello CS. Okay, I'll keep it in the same folder. Let me create a new project. Oh, sorry. I didn't choose C#. Okay, this might be a mistake which we normally make. Okay, so please don't forget that. You have to choose Visual C#, Windows Classic, and then click on Console App, and then choose the file name. So I'll just say test CS. I'll click on OK. Now you get a C# project. Okay. Now I'm not going to explain the syntax, guys. Again, I'll take the next class when I start with C#. I'll talk about this a little bit more. But all I am going to do is same thing what they have written. I'll write it here. Okay. I'm just going to write system.console.writeLine. Same code as VB, what I wrote, but only difference is it expects a semicolon. You can see that there. Okay, so I'm just going to say hello world from C#. Okay, I need to put a semicolon because this is C#. Now, why system in gray color is because it has already imported that package called system. You need not type it. I can just remove that and say console.writeLine. Okay, that became proper now. So anyway, I just wrote system console.writeLine and I can just write hello world from C#. Now, this will not work because you already know it also expects a read line. So let me just put read line, semicolon, and it is done. Write line, read line. Write this line and then wait for a line to be read or read key, whatever you want to write here. Okay, I'll just run this project once again now. I got an output. Now it says hello world from C#. Okay, now you see this working is exactly the same. No big difference here. Let me go to the projects folder, right click here, go to that particular folder. And again, see the structure here. Program.cs, it's a C# file. Let me go to the binary debug and see there is a .exe file available there. What if I double click on it? I'll get the same output. Hello world from C#, it just ran like that. Let me go to its properties. Details. Again, language neutral. Okay, so why I'm telling this is because I want you to understand that it doesn't matter which language you choose to execute it upon. All right, that's something which I need you to be very clear about. The language is not a barrier in case of .NET because .NET will anyway compile it back into its own language. So it doesn't matter which language you like. If you like VB, you can still continue with VB. You need not learn new language, C# or Java for that purpose. Just using VB, you can develop all these type of applications. No issues at all. Microsoft does not distinguish that. But it automatically prefers, you would have seen that in when it comes to PHP MySQL. MySQL is the preferred language. It doesn't mean that PHP will only talk to MySQL. It will also talk to Oracle in any other. There you are supposed to use a different package. But then here, the idea is a little bit different. Now, when it comes to Android, what we have done, SQLite is inbuilt. It doesn't mean it only supports SQLite. You can use Android with SQL Server, MySQL Server, whatever server you would like to. So basically what I'm trying to tell here is that the language, what you prefer, .NET will obviously push C# towards us because it is their official language. It doesn't mean that. Okay, there are lots of languages which .NET framework supports. This is beneficial for people who have learned some language and would like to continue in that language to develop different types of applications. Okay. Now, before I go to the next part, let me just tell you the full steps. So far, what I did was I wrote one C# file or one VB file. We compiled it. We got one exe file. That is something which is not like great thing. But what if I had 2 or 3 files in my project? How many exe files will I get? This is the next question we have. Okay, so imagine I have program.cs and then I have one more thing called like student.cs and I'm calling that student.cs in program.cs. What would happen? Okay, how many exe files would I get? Can you guys care to answer that? I hope you got my question. Right now, there is already a program.cs. I am going to add one more CS file. Okay, and in that case, what if I call that second file, the second C# file in my program.cs, how many exe files will be created? I have two C# files. Great. Okay, so that is very clear to you all, right? All right, so that's what I'm going to do now. Let me go to Solution Explorer and let me add another. See, already see that there is one C# file already there, program.cs. Let me add one more. Let me just right click, add, and let me put one more class there. Okay, let me just come out of this. Let me just add a new class, or you can just add a new item and then choose Visual C# class. Okay, I'll talk about the syntax and the classes and objects and all later when I start with C# programming. Let me just keep it simple. I'll just put student.cs. Another C# file we are creating. Okay, a class called student. That's all. Now inside this class, all I'm going to do is put a simple method like how we normally do. I'll just put public void display details, or I'll just put display details. By the way, one more thing, I'll tell about that a little bit later with respect to C#, but then camel casing is not like a great thing in C#. C# doesn't expect camel casing. All right, anyway, so let me just print something here. I'll just print console.writeLine. I'll just say the student details are. Okay, so please note, this is another file. Okay, let me not go into detail. Since you already are a Java developer, you will understand this part. It's inside a class. Inside that class, I have a method called display details. So if I create an object of this class, I will be able to call this method. Very simple. But I'm not going to call it here. This class is only going to have this method. I'm going back to my program.cs, in which I'm going to call that file and print it. So how do I do it? Before read line, I'm going to create an object of student. Student space s is equal to new student. Same syntax as Java, no difference. Okay, and then I'm going to call s dot. You can see that the method which I just created is available here. S dot display details. Let me just call that method. Done. Now, when I print, you should see that first I should see hello world from C#, that is coming from program.cs. The second word is display details, which will go to this particular file where the student details are here. This will come. So this print out when it comes, which means it is coming from student.cs, not from program.cs. I hope this is clear. Let me run the project. You see the output. Okay. First, I got hello world from C#, which comes from hello world from C#. This is program.cs. The student details are, it is coming from student.cs. Okay. I hope that is clear for everyone. All right. So the second file is coming, but what you see here is an output of one exe. Let me go back to the same folder what we came from. Okay, so let me go to C#. Yes. So let me go to test CS. Inside that bin, inside debug, please note there is only one exe file. Let me just double click on that exe and what you see as an output. Okay, I hope you got the working of .NET. The first step is, right now in the program, I have two C# files. Please understand that. I have two C# files. The first step is to compile each of them individually. That is done. It's not shown to you. It is done. The second step is to assemble them into one assembly. Assembly can either be a .exe or a .dll. I'll talk about that later. But then remember this, just exe I've created. So now, when you run the exe, it is a combination or a compilation of all the classes which are available in your project. That's why the file name is your project name.exe. Okay, so we got the output here with respect to C# project. Now, let me come back to the project here. You see that when the project runs, okay, and now is it possible for me to take that exe and give it to somebody else who is using the same configuration as mine? Yes, it will surely work in any operating system of Windows, which has .NET Framework, whatever you are targeting it for. So with this point, I can stop the working of .NET. One thing very clear. Second thing is that what about CLR? Where do I find CLR here? You cannot find CLR as such because CLR is like JVM. It was there in your .NET Framework architecture. Okay, so it will run based on whichever compiler you have. And please note, in Java, when you compile and run, how would you compile and run Java? You would run java c space file name dot java, which means java c is the exe file which is getting executed. Next, to run that particular byte code, you would use java space class name. This is how you've been running. But in .NET, in Microsoft, you have an advantage that Java has that word Java in front of it because it needs to know which program, which operating system it is executing upon. But when it comes to .NET, when you develop an application using .NET, you get an exe. Okay, in order to run an exe, what do I require? I don't require any special software because in Windows, by default, exe is the native extension. When I say native extension, for example, let me just show you here. If I run Notepad, please note, I just typed the word, I'm running the command, I'm typing the word Notepad. Okay, I'm clicking on OK. It's opening Notepad. Let me go to the task manager and see the processes. Okay, let me find whether the Notepad is available. 1 second. Here, Notepad. You see, this is a process. It's a process. Okay, please note that. And let me just open the file location. What do you see here? It's notepad.exe. All right, it's a simple exe application created by Microsoft Corporation. Now, you cannot predict what language they would have used with respect to Notepad. If you go to the details, it is also not mentioned in the version because they choose not to show that. It is just put the language as English. Okay, but then when it comes to exe files, which is available from your Microsoft server, please note that none of this exes require a special software to run. You just need to double click on it and it starts running. Okay, so this is the idea of Microsoft with respect to their project running. Okay, so till this, any questions, guys? Okay, now what if I wanted to use a different language altogether? Like, for example, I told you in the slide that you can use different languages to develop the same application. All right, so what if I already had developed an application in VB, okay, which had almost all the features what I want. Okay, all I need to do is compile that VB into a .dll, because if you create it as a .exe, it will only run. It will not help anybody else. So what I'm going to do here is, if you want, I think we have time to show that. Let me just clear this off. Okay, let me close this. I'll come back to this project a little bit later. Let me open a new project. Okay, but this time I'm going to choose, please note, I'm going to come back to C# program, but this time I'm going to choose Visual Basic, and let me see whether I can create a class library. Okay, please note, I'm just choosing class library using VB, but if you see the description here, you can understand a project for creating a VB class library, in other words, .dll. Okay, then what about this console app? This will create a command line application, which is an exe file, which will be running. But now I'm going to just create a class library. All right, so let me go to this and I'll just say DLL with VB. So I'll just say DLL with VB. I'm creating this project. Okay, I'm going to create a simple function here. Okay, so there's a simple class available. It's called class 1. I'm not going to delete it. Let it be there. Let me create a function. Okay, those who know VB can follow. Otherwise, you can just ignore this part. Okay, I'm going to create a simple function. Okay, and I'm going to name it as add numbers. Okay, so in that one, I'm going to pass value 1 as integer, value 2 as integer. Okay, this is syntax of VB, guys. If you're already familiar with it, it is fine. Otherwise, it's okay. And return type is going to be an integer. I'm just creating a function which is which will take two numbers. Okay, value 1 and value 2, and it'll return a number back to me. I'm going to just say return v1 plus v2. That's all. Okay, this is a simple function written inside a VB class. Okay, please note this is a VB class. I would like to stress that upon here. Okay, so now I cannot run this directly because it will not return anything because there's no output here. I'm going to just click on build and build solution. Okay, so what do you mean by build? Another word for build is compiling. All right, so I'm just going to use the word build. So let's say click on build. What happens when I click on build? When you build this, same folder bin debug you get a .dll file. Okay, let me just show you that. I'll go to that particular project's location. Okay, inside that I have class1.vb. Let me ignore it. Go to bin. Okay, and let me go to debug. You see, there is no exe. I get a DLL. You cannot double click that and run it. Okay, it's a system file. These are used by operating system and by various programs. Editing or modifying them could damage your system. Please note that DLL files are system-based files. You cannot run them. You can exes can use the DLL to run something. So I'm going to just ignore this error. I don't want to use that. So let me use this DLL in my project. Okay. So let me go back to my project. Please note it should be public. All must be public class, because if it's not public, you cannot access it in a different location. I think by now you know that. So let me close this project. I hope you follow. All I've done is I've created a VB project which generated, instead of an exe, it generated an DLL file. Please note, code doesn't matter, because you have written code here already in VB code. I'm going to use this VB code in my C# code shortly, which means, imagine this is my old project. Okay, I used VB in my old project and I've developed everything and kept. I don't want to rewrite all these code once again in C#. Rather, I would like to just utilize that in my C# new project. How can I do it? I just created an example here. I have a function here. I'm going to call this function in C#. So let me close this project. Let's open that other project which we created. Let me close this solution. I have created testcs.solution. So let me open that. I have a C# code here. Can I call it directly? No, you cannot call it directly, because please note, when you write code, both are different, but when you compile them, they become one. So what I am going to do is I'm going to use C# in this project, but I'm going to create that DLL what I created there in the VB project in my C# project. Let's see how to do that. I'll just go to project and then say add a reference. You're just going to refer to that DLL what you have created. Let me click on add reference, and it asks you to find something. Let me just browse it. Okay, let me go to that folder what we have created. I think C users, Thomas, source, I guess. In repos, I have DLL with VB project. Let me just open that, go to bin and find that DLL file which I just created. Okay, I hope you can see that. Okay, I'm just creating, I created a DLL file. I'm going to just refer that DLL and I'm going to add that to my project. So let me click on add. And it's checked that DLL file which I've created. Let me click on OK. Now, if you go to your Solution Explorer, you can see in the references what and all this project refers. You have my DLL file referred here. Okay, so the DLL is available here. All you need to do is call that here. How do I call it? Okay, just go to the top, like how you have import package. You're just going to say using here. Okay, and I'm going to call that file what I just created, DLL with VB, semicolon, done. Now, whatever is available inside that DLL with VB is available in my project also. Okay, so okay, I've written in the wrong place. Let me go back to program.cs. The student.cs is a separate class which is written here. I'm going to call using DLL with VB. Simple. Okay, now all I'm going to do here is I'm going to call or create a method. Okay, so I'm going to create a thing called class 1. If you remember, this class 1 is the word which I wrote in that DLL with VB. Inside that DLL with VB, there is something called class 1. So let me create an object of that class 1. Class 1 space C1 is equal to new class 1. Simple. Okay, and can I call the output? Let me just try to print that output. Console dot write line. Okay, the value is, I'll just put this. So just want to see whether it works. So how do I call that method which I created there? Just need to call C1 dot. Okay, I guess it is pretty visible, so I'll just keep it there. I hope you can see. Okay, so I'm just going to say C1 dot. You see what are the methods available? You have a method called add numbers. If you notice that, it is the method which I wrote it in VB. If you note, I gave V1 and V2 as two values there. You can see that it has now become general. You see class 1 dot add numbers. It is looking for int V1, int V2. If you remember, I wrote it as integer. That's VB syntax. Okay, but when it came to C#, that same program has now changed into int V1, int V2. So I'm just going to say add numbers, and I'm going to pass those some two numbers. Let me just pass 5, comma 6. Sorry, I just passed this. I expect that to work. Now, please note this file right now calls hello world from C# from program.cs. Display details, which means it will call the student details are here from student.cs. And the value of this, the add numbers, this logic is not there in my program at all. It was written in VB. I just called that DLL here in my project. That's all. All right, let me run the project and see if it works. Here. You can see the student.cs. You know where this came from. Okay, the value came from my program, but the output of this came from a VB file, which we created and converted it into a DLL. And I use that in my project. So my project is right now comprising of code from C# and VB, but there is no difference at all in the working of my project. I hope this is clear. Okay, so this is the advantage of using .NET, which means you can import a lot of libraries. Language is not a barrier, which means you get everything quickly added, or whatever you had worked with so long will be easily integrated into whatever language you choose. All right, so I leave this entirely up to you. This is not this demo is not for coding, guys. This is just to understand how the working of .NET goes for. Now, before I wind up, let me show you one more simple thing, but I'm not going to go in depth of it. Let me just close this solution. Let me create a new project, but this time not a console application. I'm going to choose, let me choose VB itself right now. Classic desktop. I'm going to choose a Windows Forms app. Okay, please note, I'm using Windows Forms app, and let me just give demo forms and then click on OK. Okay, please note what I'm right now creating is not a console application. Next level, which is a GUI. All right, so we can see here, this is a form design. I think most of you are familiar with it when you have done VB projects. Okay, so that's the same structure. I am just going to go to the toolbox, and just like how you have done in VB, you can just drag and drop controls, like for example, a button or something like that, and you can make it work. You can keep it anywhere you want and then double click on it, write the code. All these things are fine. Now, what I am going to do right now is, I'll just leave it like this, just an example. I'll do a little bit more on that in the next class onwards. Let me just run this project. Okay. Now, please note, it is form1.vb. Most of you already know VB, how it works. See, form1.vb. But if I right click on this design and say view code, you will see something like this. This is the design. This is the code. Okay. So I just put the word class form1 and I got this entire form. Now, when I run it, what should happen? Okay, please note there is form1, which has a lot of things inside it, which we will see later. But imagine that there is a VB file which is there, not one VB file actually. Let me just show you, if possible, let's say all the files. Now you can see that VB has two files. The one which you see here is the logic part of that VB file. The one which you see here is the design part. So design part is also written in code, if you could see that. This is the code, but it's not important for us to bother about it much. I dragged and dropped a button, the code is generated. Just like swing, if you remember. Okay, so let's ignore that. But there are two VB files created. When I run, what do you expect? You expect one exe file, not in the name of form1.exe. You will get demoforms.exe. Let me run it. When I run it, you get a simple Windows application. Okay, the title is form1, but if you go to the task manager and see what is running, okay, let me show that quickly. Wait, I think it's running within Visual Studio, so okay, I'll show that. Okay, demo forms. Okay, so here you have demo forms.exe, which is running one form inside that. Okay, this is the project name. Let me not see that from the Solution Explorer. Let me just go to like how I did the console application. Let me right click on the project, go to its folder, and go to its bin, debug. You see what is the output? Demoforms.exe. One exe file is there. Let me double click on it. What do I get as the output? the form. That's it. Okay, now when I'm running this part, you don't care whether I've written VB or C#. I get the output, that's all. When I click on it, what should I do? All those things are C# or VB will decide. But once you run, it doesn't matter which language you have used because it'll all work the same. Okay, with this, I think I'll stop for today. If you have any questions, please do ask. Otherwise, just wait. I'll just take the attendance and I'll stop presentation once. Okay, I think 84 people are there. I hope, except 1 or 2, nobody else is absent. Please stay online 1 minute. Yeah, 84. Oh, 85 are there now. Okay. Okay, I think I've taken that. If anybody is missing, I'll ask you later. Anyway, do you guys have any questions? If you have any, you can ask. Otherwise, we can wind up, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.